Welcome to the third video in this series about the fundamentals for digital artists. In this video we are going to look at different types of drawing and shading techniques with the traditional tools we discussed in the last video. We are not going to use digital tools like Photoshop because for the basics we want to be able to use standard drawing tools and apply standard techniques, and we don't want to spend much time thinking about how to use buttons or stuff like that. I want you to learn how to draw straight lines, how to think in 3D, and how to apply shadow in 3D and stuff like that over time. So you can see me here preparing 6 different circles, and we make balls out of them with the different shading techniques. So the first is one of the really old school methods that I used, and this is called hatching. And hatching means creating the shadow with lines going all into the same direction, and then there's also cross hatching, which means the lines cross each other. And yeah, we will take a look into that after this. Leonardo da Vinci did a nice job with cross hatching. The lines do not need to be placed how he did it. He did it all tidy and stuff, but some artists do it in a more chaotic way, and Da Vinci did it really, I really like it, and I encourage you to look up Da Vinci's drawings. You know, and what you want to do is try to follow the shape of the surface, and when there is more shadow you can add more lines as well, stuff like that. And this is basically cross hatching. And you can see I am still following the shape of the surface. And what you can also do, you don't need to do it this way. You can also do it like, I don't know, this. And then there's some people who do it like this, you know, it's as if you wouldn't think too much about how to place the lines exactly. But you can do it, you know. It's more like, I don't know, I don't want to call it chaotic because some artists really think a lot about it, I think. They just don't spend too much time drawing long lines following the curves, but they actually still do follow the surface. And then there are some artists who really seem to make no big deal out of it, and it looks pretty chaotic, and that's what I don't like. And Leonardo da Vinci, for example, he really made it very, very nice. And yeah, take a look at that. Then there's smudging, which means applying multiple layers of pigment and then smudge it with your finger to create a nice gradient. You don't need to use your finger, you can use anything you want and try it. I don't know, I never tried it with another sheet of paper or something, but you know what I mean. And yeah, then you can, for example, what I don't do in this video, you can, you know, this gradient that's here outside of the ball shape, you can erase it, for example, again. And that's basically how I started. You don't apply too much pressure, several layers of pigment, and then you smudge. And you can, the more time you spend, the better your gradient gets. So you can really get some nice results with it. Now I'm preparing the next technique. I'm going to use Copic markers, and since they tend to bleed through the paper, I put some extra paper beneath this paper sheet so that I don't bleed through onto the next page of my sketchbook. So this is a one shading method with Copic markers, and here you apply 3 different gray tones like 30%, 50% and 70% cool gray. And first you fill the circle with 30%, then you add the darkest color at the bottom where you want your shadow, and flick the color by pressing hard, dragging a line up and releasing the pressure while dragging the line. Then add the medium color in the same way, and then blend everything together with the lightest color again. Here you can see me applying the medium color, the medium gray. And for me it didn't work as well as for the videos on YouTube, I found. And probably it is because of the paper I use. But I have another technique that works better. And I don't know if I'm gonna show it. I will probably skip it. At the end of this recording I try to improve it, this one ball, by giving it another go with flicking and stuff like that. And the next day when it's dry it seemed okay, not too bad, but I could still see some of the very dark flicks of these. And yeah, the other technique worked better for me, and I will show you that on the next paper sheet. What I'm preparing now is the next tool and the next technique. And this is the brush tip pen or pit brush pen or brush pen. And it's like painting with a brush, but it's not a brush. It has a brush tip, but it is a marker actually. It's like a marker. And you can create a gradient by applying color from dark to light, and you can blend the colors together by smudging the next lighter color. And you can see me here not doing these flicks or something, but I actually follow the shape of the ball, the way I want to add the shadow. And then I add the next brighter color, and here I do not use flicking or something. I just apply the next brighter color, and you can already see how the gradients appear by drawing with the next brighter color into the darker color. And it works well for me. I see a lot of people complain about it on YouTube, but you know, I think it works well. The problem is, what you can see in the video already is that there are some very small parts of the paper coming off. I don't know, you probably know this from school when you did an art class, did paint with a regular brush and stuff. And when you apply this over and over again, this happens sometimes with watercolors and stuff. And yeah, that's probably the biggest problem I had. But the next day when it's all dry, you can brush them off with your hand or whatever. So you're not really destroying the paper or working through it, so to speak. And also there's no color bleed in the end compared to the Copic markers. I will also show you another approach in the second part of this video. But yeah, I was pretty happy with the outcome, especially because this is not really, I don't know, a technique. I just did it, so to speak, and it's okay. Now on to the next shading method on this sheet, and this one is called stippling or pointillism, and all you do is adding many dots, and the more shadow, the more dots you add to the surface. It reminds me a bit of rendering in a computer software, but with your hand, and it takes forever, and I think it's a stupid way of shading. I don't know where it comes from and when they used it, but I don't use it, and I don't recommend it. And I will fast forward the video, and I will also add some shadow and stuff, and then it's on to the next page. Alright, and this is the final page, and you can see me. Here I have tried to polish it, this Copic ball, and I added a little highlight with Tipex or something. It's a Tipex marker basically, and there you could see how much it bleeds through the page. Alright, and now I'm going to prepare the next color board. Let me just skip right through it. Alright. There we go. And this will be another Copic technique. And this time I tried following the shape with my marker, imagining the shadows flow and going from dark to light. Excuse me, from light to dark. And then there's an extra marker without color. It's called the Colorless Blender. That helps you to push the color a bit. Using this method worked better for me, and I will show you in a second why. And what you can do as well is you can draw over the applied color with the same gray tone several times and make it darker a bit already. So if you're not 100% confident and don't want to add the next darker tone already and want to experiment a bit, yeah, try that. And here you can see me applying the Colorless Blender. And what it actually does, it doesn't really blend, not in the way you would like it, but it pushes the color somehow. And you know, let's see. Here, this is only wet paper. This is where the actual color was, and it pushed it into this direction. And now we have somewhat of a gradient, but what we also have is this kind of weird edge, or whatever you call it. And we will take a look at it when it's dry. But yeah, that's probably not the best part of it, but you can try the blender, and sometimes it helps. And what I like about it is, in this case, it looks like metal, so that's why I like this this technique. And here I'm applying the next darker color. Actually, I think it's the darkest color. And now I add the medium gray. And I'm still following the shape flow. And then again, I can blend it all together, either with the next brighter color or with the Colorless Blender. And I will probably go back and forth and experiment with it. And I have to apologize for the video quality a bit, because I actually recorded it in way too high quality, like, I don't know, HD, full HD, but also with 60 FPS, and now I can't fast forward it in VLC player, because as soon as I do it starts lagging. And now I already also applied a filter in order to rotate the image, because of the way I record it. It's upside down, and now it's lagging all the time. I have to change this recording quality in the next video when I need that again. The next two videos will be mostly theoretical presentations, I think. I'll probably throw in some in-between videos that I don't use at the university, but I will show you some more techniques and approaches how I draw humans with, I don't know, some pencil, or how I draw some environments with my ballpoint pen and stuff like that, because I have the feeling that newcomers and my new students, they really want to see it, and in order to understand it, they really have no idea. You know, the first time drawing person really has basically no imagination on how do I apply a straight line and don't mess it up. And what I'm trying to explain them is really just try and do mess it up, you know, just try it, make your mistakes, like what Bob Ross would say, you know, it's not like a mistake, it's you're learning, and you will fail at some point, and you will fail over and over again, and as an artist you will always fail, but at the same time you will get better and better and better and better, and that's why you have to practice this stuff for years until you're good. And at this point I'm really just polishing and trying to get this a little more clean and see what it does. But I'm fairly happy at the end. And now we will get to the next technique. And that's again with the brush pens. I gave the brush pens another go, and I think I can create fine gradients with it. And I see people complain about it on YouTube a lot, and they don't like it. They don't like these pens. But yeah, I will do this flicking or smudging that we saw earlier with the Copics, and for me it works better with the brush pens than with the Copics, and I really like how it turns out, except for the, you know, destroying the paper part. That's something I can fix, but you can just brush it off the next day when it's dry, at least for the most part. But what you can see is I'm still drawing the shape flow. Yeah, I'm following the shape flow, and I work from dark to light in this case, and now I do this kind of flicking method or smudging. I don't know, smudging with the tip. And the more I do it, the more I create the gradient. And again, in the contrary to what the most YouTube videos say, I'm pretty happy with the result in the end. And now the last technique is called swirling, by which you create shadow by making circular motions and fill the form until it looks the way you want. So you can draw circles on top of the circles to add more shadow. And I find this technique pretty cool. I like it. It took me a bit to add the shadows, but I just wanted to make sure it looks cool. So therefore I didn't add too much pressure to it, and yeah, it turns out pretty good. You also see me making bigger circular motions over time. But you can see the gradients work well. And this concludes already this video, and you will see me adding some shadows at the end and stuff, but that's about it for the techniques. And next videos will either be about some basic terminology and what we as digital artists will come up with in our daily business, you know, what we need to draw actually, how it will look like in the end, or some of the theoretical fundamentals, the really basics, how our brain perceives reality and how we project this in a digital way, so to speak, on a computer, how light and color fundamentals work, color spaces, and what they do and what we can do with it and why this is important. And that will be very theoretical, and I will talk a lot about it, and I think that's pretty cool, but still very basic yet. We will have to do it because we will add on top of that over time. And there will be many theoretical lectures that I will add hours of theory, and I think that my students don't really enjoy it, but not all of them at least, and it can be pretty dry, but that's stuff you need to understand, you know. And I will try to make videos in 20 to 30 minute chunks, so that you can have a look at the topic, and then you can take a break, and then you will get to the next video if you like, whenever you like, so to speak. And I will probably add more over time, because I'm learning as well. It's a lifelong learning, and there's always a new technique or a new tool, or I don't know, something that I come up with that I ask about, you know, like how do I make this in perspective? I don't know. And there's so much about perspective you can learn, and I'm always looking into it. You know, especially as a teacher, when your students come up with questions you haven't thought about yet. That's the fun part about being a teacher. And so there will maybe, now this is video 3, there will maybe a video in between video 2 and 3, like 2.1 or something like that. I don't know. And yeah, I would just skip through this and show you the end result, and stay tuned for the next video.